James Carter is 46 years old. He is an orthopedic surgeon in Houston, Texas. He earns $380,000 a year. He has a $1.4 million home, a leased Mercedes, kids in private school, and 2 international vacations on the calendar every year. To everyone who knows him, James Carter has made it. And last October, quietly, on a Sunday evening after his kids had gone to bed, James picked up his phone and called his brother-in-law to borrow $9,000. Not a bad investment. Not a lawsuit. Not a hidden problem. A tax bill came due. And he didn't have the money to cover it. $380,000 a year. Borrowing money. Now, before you write James off as careless, you need to understand something. James is not unusual. James is not an edge case. James is one of millions of high earners living inside a trap so perfectly designed, so completely invisible, that most people caught in it never see it coming. And there's a real chance you're inside it too. This video is going to show you exactly what the trap is, why brilliant people fall into it, and how to get out before it costs you the one thing money cannot buy back: time. If you've ever felt like your income should be doing more for you than it actually is, hit subscribe right now. Everything on this channel is built for people who want to stop earning more and start keeping more. Let's get into it. Here is the belief that almost every American carries into adulthood without ever questioning it. Earn more. Be fine. That is the plan. That is the entire financial strategy for most households in this country: make more money, and everything else sorts itself out. And it feels true. Because when you were making $40,000 a year and imagining $100,000, every financial problem seemed solvable. The stress. The tight months. The credit card balance that never disappeared. All of it fixed by a bigger number on a paycheck. So you worked harder. You got the degree. You took the promotion. The income grew. And then something strange happened. The stress didn't disappear. It changed shape. The bills got bigger. The obligations multiplied. The lifestyle expanded to meet the income and then exceeded it, and you found yourself in the same quiet financial anxiety you had at $40,000, just with a nicer house and a much larger monthly payment stack. Sound familiar? You are not failing. You are not alone. You are caught in something that was specifically built to catch you. A study from Charles Schwab found that 59% of Americans earning over $100,000 a year say they live paycheck to paycheck. More than half of six-figure earners, one missed check away from a real problem. And here is the number that should genuinely stop you cold. Federal Reserve data shows that Americans in the top 20% of earners save a lower percentage of their income than people in the bottom 40%. The people earning less are saving more of it. That is documented. That is consistent. And it is pointing directly at something most financial advice never addresses. The problem is not your income. The problem is the system consuming your income the moment it arrives. And until you can see the system, you cannot beat it. Let me introduce you to the real villain of this story. It has no face. It sends no threatening letters. It never appears on a credit report. It works quietly. Incrementally. And it is almost elegantly effective. It is called lifestyle inflation. And what I'm about to show you is far more deliberate than most people realize. Here is how it worked on James. In residency, he earned $64,000 a year. Modest apartment. Used Honda Accord. Packed lunch. Expenses around $50,000. He had a plan, and the plan was working. Then came the attending position. His income went from $64,000 to $195,000 in a single year. And here is what nobody told James: in the month that income change happened, a very specific set of industries already knew about it. The luxury car dealership in his zip code. The private school admissions office. The upscale real estate market. The investment product salespeople. The travel agencies targeting aspirational families. They were not waiting passively. They were actively, algorithmically targeting James, because he had become exactly who they market to. Not someone who can comfortably afford a $90,000 vehicle. Someone who can almost afford it. Someone one justification away from signing. And every upgrade James accepted felt earned. Felt reasonable. Felt like the natural next step for someone at his level. That is not a flaw in how James thinks. That is a feature of how the system works. By the time his income reached $380,000, his lifestyle had been carefully, incrementally expanded to cost $350,000 a year to maintain. The trap does not steal from you all at once. It just keeps pace with you. And for most high earners, it does, perfectly. You might be thinking, James is a surgeon. Shouldn't someone that educated see this coming? And that question reveals the most important thing about this trap. Intelligence does not protect you. In many ways, intelligence makes you more vulnerable. Here is why. Harvard psychologist Tal Ben-Shahar studied what he called the arrival fallacy, the deeply human tendency to believe that reaching a specific milestone will finally bring the peace, the security, the stability you have been working toward. Once I make partner, I'll relax. Once I buy the house, we'll feel settled. Once the income hits 6 figures, the anxiety goes away. And every time the milestone arrives, the feeling doesn't stay. So the brain sets a new destination. And the spending attached to each arrival point doesn't feel like a choice, it feels like a reward. A receipt for years of sacrifice. James didn't lease the Mercedes because he was reckless. He leased it because he'd driven a used Honda for 8 years through medical school and residency. He earned it. Every person in his life would agree. And that is exactly what makes the trap so effective. The most dangerous financial decisions are the ones that feel completely justified. Now meet Marcus Williams. Marcus is 38, a senior technology director in Chicago earning $210,000 a year. He grew up in Gary, Indiana. His father worked in a steel mill. His mother cleaned offices on weekends. Marcus earned a scholarship, finished a master's degree, and clawed his way into a 6-figure career over 14 years of relentless work. Marcus spends the way someone spends when they've spent a lifetime trying to prove they're not who they were. The luxury apartment. The Tesla. The tailored suits. The $8,000 annual trip. None of these feel frivolous to Marcus. They are evidence. Proof, to himself, to his mother, to everyone from Gary, that the sacrifice worked. Marcus is not irresponsible. Marcus is human. And the trap was designed for someone exactly like him. Here's where the beliefs most people carry about money get turned completely upside down. Most people think a high salary means you are building wealth. The reality is, a high salary with no savings rate means you are building a lifestyle that requires an ever-increasing salary just to survive. Most people think financial stress is a low-income problem. The reality is, financial stress is a savings rate problem. And high earners often have some of the worst savings rates in the country. Most people think driving a luxury vehicle signals wealth. The reality is, Thomas Stanley, the author of The Millionaire Next Door, found that the majority of luxury vehicle drivers are not wealthy, they are upper-middle earners redirecting wealth-building capital into depreciating monthly payments. Most people think the path to retirement security is to keep earning more. The reality is, retirement security comes from widening the gap between income and expenses, and that gap does not grow automatically with income. It has to be protected with intention. And here is the identity conflict that truly lands when you sit with it. The person you think is wealthy, the neighbor with the big house, the colleague with the luxury SUV, the friend who never seems to worry, is often the person with the least actual financial security. The person quietly building real wealth? You would never know from looking at them. Hold that thought. Because I want to show you exactly who that person is. Sandra Mitchell is 51 years old. She is a middle school science teacher in Columbus, Ohio. She has taught 7th grade for 23 years. Sandra earns $88,000 a year. Never 6 figures. No side business. No inheritance. She drives a 2017 Toyota Camry with 94,000 miles. She owns a 3-bedroom home she bought in 2004 for $161,000. Sandra Mitchell has a net worth of $740,000, not counting her pension. She will retire at 58. Fully. On her own terms. How? In 2005, Sandra committed to saving and investing 22% of every paycheck before she ever touched it. She budgeted around the rest. When raises came, she split them, half to a small lifestyle improvement, half directly into her investment accounts. She never invested what was left over. There was never anything left over. She paid herself first and lived on what remained. But here is the deeper truth about Sandra. She made one psychological decision that mattered more than any spreadsheet. She stopped using money to signal anything to anyone. The Camry runs well and she owns it outright. She takes one vacation a year, usually a national park road trip. She is not performing financial success for an audience. She is building actual financial security for herself. Now hold these two pictures side by side. James Carter. $380,000 a year. On track to work until 73 just to maintain his current lifestyle in retirement. Sandra Mitchell. $88,000 a year. Retiring at 58. James earns $292,000 more per year than Sandra. And Sandra is retiring 15 years before him. The salary is not the variable that matters. The gap between what you earn and what you spend, and what you do with that gap, is everything. Let's talk about what this trap actually costs. Not in dollars. In years. Because years are the one currency you cannot earn back. If James continues at his current trajectory, saving less than 7% of $380,000 while carrying a $6,800 monthly mortgage, $2,200 in lease payments, $38,000 in annual private school tuition, financial modeling projects he will need to work until 73 just to fund a retirement that matches his current lifestyle. Not a rich retirement. His current one. The one where he borrowed $9,000. Here is the number that is genuinely hard to read. If James had kept expenses at 60% of income when his salary first tripled, not extreme frugality, just discipline, he would have been investing roughly $78,000 a year in his early 30s. At a 7% average annual return, by 60, those investments would have grown to approximately $4.8 million. Instead, James is worth about $310,000 on paper, almost entirely in home equity he cannot live on without selling the house. Now back to Marcus. Last spring, Marcus had a month many Americans quietly dread. Car repair, $4,200. ER visit after insurance, $2,800. Lease renewal with a $400 monthly increase. $7,000 in unexpected costs. Marcus had $5,800 liquid. He put $1,200 on a credit card. And he asked HR about taking a 401k loan. Earning $210,000 a year. Taking a 401k loan to cover a car repair. Let me ask you the question Marcus asked himself that night. If your income stopped tomorrow, not forever, just for 4 months, what would actually happen? How many months of your current life could you cover with what you have liquid right now? If that number is less than 6, this video is for you. What Sandra Mitchell understands, and what James and Marcus haven't learned yet, is not a secret strategy. It is one behavioral truth. People who build real wealth pay themselves first, and they treat it as a non-negotiable fixed expense, not whatever is left at month's end. Sandra has never once invested what was left over. She invested first and structured everything else around that sequence. James and Marcus do the opposite. They pay the mortgage, the leases, the subscriptions, the dining, the travel, and then invest the remainder. Which is almost always nothing. Morgan Housel, in The Psychology of Money, documents something important: a disproportionate share of America's highest net worth individuals are not elite earners. They are consistent, disciplined savers who earn decent incomes, lived significantly below their means for decades, and let compounding do the work. Wealth is often most visible in what someone does not have: the car they didn't lease, the house they didn't upgrade to, the vacation they didn't charge. Real wealth is invisible. It lives in brokerage accounts, not driveways. Sandra also stopped using money as communication, not spending to prove anything to neighbors, colleagues, or even herself. She made a decision to let her account balance reflect her values and let everything else take care of itself. That shift, from money as performance to money as freedom, is the most powerful financial decision most people never make. Here are 5 moves that break the salary trap, without destroying your lifestyle or asking you to live like you're broke. Move 1. Audit your fixed costs with fresh eyes. Your mortgage, car leases, tuition, memberships, subscriptions, these feel like obligations now, but they were all choices once. Go through every fixed monthly commitment and ask, if I were making this decision today, from scratch, would I make it? The ones that don't survive that question are costing you years. Move 2. Apply the percentage rule before your next raise lands. Before that salary increase hits your account, commit a percentage, 20% minimum, 30% if you're serious, directly to investments on payday. Not after expenses. Before. The money that never touches your checking account is money you will never miss and will always be grateful for. Move 3. Stop performing wealth. Researchers at the University of Michigan found that people notice status purchases, the car, the watch, the bag, for an average of 8 seconds before returning to thinking about themselves. You may be carrying hundreds in monthly payments for an audience that has already looked away. Ask yourself honestly how much of your spending is for genuine enjoyment and how much is for a crowd that stopped watching. Move 4. Build runway money. 12 months of living expenses, liquid, in a high-yield savings account. Not because disaster is guaranteed. Because knowing you can survive one changes everything about how you show up at work, how you negotiate, and whether your employer owns your choices because your lease does. Move 5. Name your number. Financial independence is a specific math problem, not an abstract dream. Calculate the monthly income you would need to stop working voluntarily. Multiply by 300. That is your financial independence number under the 4% rule. Write it down. Make it real. The salary trap thrives on vagueness. It cannot survive a specific number with a specific plan attached. James Carter is starting to understand this. Marcus Williams sat down with a fee-only financial advisor last month, the first time in his life. He walked in expecting to be judged. He walked out with a plan. Neither of them is ruined. Neither of them is too late. And neither are you. Let's come back to where we started. James Carter made a phone call last October that he was ashamed of. Last week, he made a different one. He called a fee-only financial advisor and sat down with someone who looked at his real numbers honestly for the first time. His income hasn't changed. His house is the same. What changed is how he sees himself in relationship to money. He stopped seeing his salary as a reward to be spent. He started seeing it as a tool to be aimed. That is the shift. That is the entire game. The salary trap has never claimed a single person who could see it clearly and chose differently. It only works in the dark. And you have seen it now. You know that income alone is not a financial strategy. You know that lifestyle inflation is not a personal failure, it is a system built and deployed specifically to consume your earnings as fast as they grow. You know that the most financially secure people you will ever meet often look completely ordinary. And you know that wealth is not determined by how much you earn, it is determined by how much you keep, how long you keep it, and how patiently you let it grow. So let me leave you with one question. Not for me, for yourself. Is your income building wealth? Or is it just funding a more expensive version of the same financial uncertainty you have always had? Because there is a difference. And now you know what it looks like. If this hit close to home, drop a comment below and tell me, have you ever felt like you were earning well but still not getting ahead? I read every single one, and the most honest comments shape what I make next. And if you want to go deeper, the next video you need to watch is about the single biggest mistake people make inside their 401k that quietly destroys 6 figures of retirement wealth over a career. It is already up. Linked right here. I will see you there.